In this video, I just want to show you how to set up the UI description samples that I worked through in the lecture. So let's assuming you've downloaded the archive from the website and you've unzipped it. And when you unzip it, you will get a folder like this. And we just need to drag and drop that into VS Code. So I've got VS Code open up in the background. And I'll just drag it across. Now, we need to install an extension or a plugin to VS Code. Basically, the plugin is a simple little web server. If you already have a HTTP server on your machine, then that would do fine as well. But we may as well go through the process anyway of installing an extension or a plugin for VS Code, because you may have other ones that you might like to install later on. So to install a plugin in the editor, if you click on this icon over here, this one here, what you see here now is, in my case anyway, a list of plugins that I've already installed, but you can also search for other plugins. And when you start typing into this text box here, VS Code essentially sends requests to a remote repository for any matching plugins based on the plugin name. So the one I'm interested in is one called Live Server. So if I start typing, and I've got my match here. Now, because I've already installed it, I don't have the option of installing it. You can see that this other one down here has an install button available to it. So that button would appear ordinarily up here, and you just click it and install it, and that's it really, you're done. It's probably a good idea when you install a plugin to reboot VS Code. So let's assuming you've done that. Now for this particular plugin, as I said, all it is really is a HTTP server that you can start from within your editor. So let's go back to our code. This icon up here, by the way, all these icons over here on the extreme left are referred to as kind of activities in the language of VS Code. So this activity up here in the top left is your Explorer activity, which is the mode that you will normally be in. So these are the files that I've just imported from the samples that I want you to have a look at. And you can see there are some HTML files, as you've seen from the lecture. Now, in terms of this live server, I want to kick off my HTTP server. In order to do that, or sorry, before I actually talk about that, once you've dragged this project in, you need to install React and React DOM. As you can see, this is an ordinary node project, if you like, because there's a package.json down here. And if we looked at package.json, we can see that it's referring to our React and React DOM dependencies. So you're familiar with that. Therefore, I need to install those. And in order to do that, I want to open up what VS Code calls an integrated terminal. Now to do that, if you drop down the terminal drop down and select new terminal, you can see down here in the bottom right now, I have essentially a shell or terminal prompt. And so you would go npm install. Hit return, and that will install your node modules. And you can see over on the left, I've already done it because I have my node modules folder. So I don't need to run that, but you would in your case. So we're good to go now. We want to actually play with our samples, if you like. So this is where live server comes in. I want to kick off my live server HTTP server. Now, before you do it, I'd advise you to make sure you don't have any files open here. So I'm going to close that off. So if you look down here on the bottom right, you'll see in the status bar, there's this Go Live button. And if I click that, that will start my HTTP server, and it will open up a browser tab, and it will essentially display whatever's in your current project, which is all these guys here. So let's do that. And there we go. Now, just the tip really, don't have any file open here when you start the server, because if you do, all it will do is serve that particular file. And that may be fine in some cases, but in our case, we want to be able to browse through the various files. So go back to my browser. And so if I want to look at, well, what does this one display? When I click on it, and it gives me that. And you can work your way through the samples if you wish. To stop the server, again, go down to the here, and essentially what it's displaying here is the HTTP port that the server is running on. And so if you click that, that essentially stops your server. The only other thing I might just bring to your attention in terms of extensions or plugins for VS Code, if I go back to the extensions activity, there's another one that I would recommend you install, which is called Prettier. And you can see it here. What it is a code formatter for any JavaScript, JSON, HTML kind of web stuff, really. I strongly recommend that you install that as well. And I can show you kind of what it does for you. I use it an awful lot. If I go into just one of my JavaScript files, it doesn't really matter which one. Okay, this just doesn't have much JavaScript as such, but if I mess up the formatting, let's say, and I want to reformat it properly rather than me doing it manually, what you can do is get the Prettier plugin to do it for you. Now, to bring it up, if you go Control-Shift-P on Mac, I have to find out what it is on Windows, and type format or part of it. And you can see this option here, format document with. Now, in my case, I have more than one formatter. It may not ask you, it may tell you straight away, format document with Prettier, but if I click on this, these are some formatters that I have installed, but if I just stick the one that I want, which is this one, and you can see it has reformatted the code properly for me. It's, as I said, I use this an awful lot in my code just to clean it up after you've done a lot of typing. It's hard to keep track of the formatting really when you're doing it yourself. Just get the tool to do it for you. That's about it for now. So have a play with some of the samples if you wish. Thanks.